Welcome to the Code, Deploy, Go Live podcast, episode 22. I'm Andrew Connell, and I'm here with Julie Turner. If you want to watch this episode as a video, head over to our YouTube channel. You'll find the link in the show notes. And this episode is our end of year / holiday / New Year's episode, as this episode drops on New Year's Eve. Julie and we discussed how we use AI in our personal, work, and development lives, including with chatbots and which platforms we use and which ones we prefer. And this episode was recorded live December the 23rd, 2025. Hey, Julie, how are you today?
Hey, Andrew. Good job getting through that intro. Kudos to you, Mr. Coffer.
I'm going to do my absolute best to not get too animated today, but I'm sure it's going to happen at some point to where I'm getting another coughing fit. And I'll do my best to mute myself and let you take over. But
we're just going to make it work. This is a real live show where we try not to edit at all. And I like it better that way. So if you're coughing and feeling, well, you're not feeling under the weather particularly, right? It's just a cough, right?
It's just a cough. I mean, it depends on the time of day when I have a massive headache from coughing all day. So,
sure,
yes.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm okay because I've been pretty quiet all day.
All right, I'm going to be teasing out my natural home cough remedy recipes and forwarding them on with good vibes, and we're going to get you better. So that's the goal. That's the goal.
Well, I tried to do a little bit, trying to do some self-medication for it. So my wife and my mother-in-law made candies for gifts for family and stuff yesterday. And one of the things they made, I was planning on being involved, and my mother-in-law always comes over and they always do it in the morning. And so I assumed it was going to be in the morning. And of course, my daughter had physical therapy. She had surgery last week on her knee. Funny story about that. I'll come back to that in a minute. But so she had physical therapy for the second time yesterday morning. And my mother-in-law said, well, I'll just come over. We'll start at lunchtime afterwards. And I'm like, seriously? I only have 2 meetings this week. And both of them are on Monday afternoon with clients. I mean, this was originally scheduled for us to record on Christmas Day, which we're both not happening. So we moved it to Tuesday of the week of Christmas, but I looked at it as I'll be down to help when I can. Anyway, they made a bunch of different things. One of the things they made was bourbon balls. They made a double batch of them because everyone likes them. And so
gotta love your nil away for bourbon balls.
Well, there wasn't nil away from bourbon balls. They take pecans, they put them in the food processor, chop them up, pour a bunch of Jack Daniels in there, and let them absorb it for the course of I don't know. It was 2 or 3 days. They've been sitting on the island, and then it's then they mix it into this sugary kind of a paste. I don't know what it is, and then it's all covered in melting chocolate.
Interesting. My recipe is ground up Nilla wafer cookies with pecans and the bourbon and all of the stuff. They use Nilla wafers are used as the binder instead of a lot of sugar. A little confectioner's sugar, but not that's on the outside. So instead of a sugar paste, it's Nilla wafers that are ground up.
I might be wrong then because I have not seen them made and I just know what they tasted like. So anyway, I thought having 2 or 3 bourbon balls from the first
same. Yeah, the first is the same. The second part is that I use Nilla wafers as I don't know. Who knows? Everybody's got a different recipe. But is that helping? Are you scoffing them down?
Well, I haven't had one until today. Today, I had 2 of them about an hour ago. But it's not like they have a lot of bourbon in them. So I was I don't know. I didn't think since it's a video show, it'd be a good idea for me to just be sitting here drinking out of a Jack Daniels bottle during our show. Even though it's not my preference of bourbon, of whiskey or whatever. But it's not my preference, but I didn't think that would be, it's not the kind of show this is.
No.
Anyway.
No. When my son was little, we used to just I have raw honey in the house that we get from a local person who makes honey. And we just gave my son scoops of honey out of the jar to stop the cough. And that helped pretty well, but doesn't go away entirely.
The weirdest thing about it, and I guess we haven't recorded since I last did this. Yeah, well, last time we recorded was before I was doing a half marathon, I think. I told you I wasn't going to be able to do it, right?
That was so weird. You told me about this though, that you don't cough while running.
Yeah, I don't cough at all when I'm running. The second I stop, I start coughing horribly, like dry heave. I cough to the point where it gets up to the point where maybe TMI, I now have to go make an appointment because I think I've coughed so much I might have given myself a hernia. I like the day we recorded was 2 days before. I think it was on a Thursday.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
I was supposed to run a half marathon on Saturday. Well, the morning we recorded, I was supposed to run like a 3.5, just like stay loose run. I couldn't even get 2 miles done. And so the whole day I was like I was bummed out all day. So I'm like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do it. And finally on Friday night, I was like, you know what? Screw it. The race starts and you do kind of an out and back, like a lollipop, because there's a 5K, a half marathon, and a full marathon.
Sure.
And so I did the 5K starts. We all start at the same place at the same time. The 5K finishes at the start finish line. And so all the marathoners and half marathoners, we just keep going. And so I was like, okay, if worst case, I can walk a 5K, I'm going to try it out because the weather was perfect. Everything, the conditions were great. My fitness was great. Everything was great, except for having the flu and a cough and everything. So I was like, I can bail at 5K if I have to. There's a bail point at the 6 mile, just shy of the 6 mile mark, and there's a bail point at the 10 mile mark. But by then you're 3 miles away, so you might as well just walk the rest.
Yeah.
I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it. I still was able to do a 2-hour half marathon. I don't know how, but
I wonder what the science is behind that. Fascinating.
It's just weird because you're breathing a ton, but like right now I'm trying to hold my breath. I mean, like right now you can hear me. I mean, you can see me.
Yeah. No, that's not fun.
It's not. But what have you been up to? I'm going to give myself a break, Julie.
Yeah, go ahead. Give yourself a break. I have been up to, I actually have some work to do. And I actually have a new potential AI project that I'm excited to putter around with. So I got some interesting work projects, not a ton of little work projects, but enough to keep me busy over the holidays. So that's fun. In the home front. So my son is obsessed with Snoopy and Charlie Brown, like always has loved it. And so whenever we do the Christmas tree, he always wants a Charlie Brown tree. And since we live in New England and there are pine trees everywhere, we just go out and we live with 90 acres of forest behind us. So we just go out into that forest and find a scrawny pine tree, white pine tree. And that's our Christmas tree. And it has been for several years. And normally I get involved in decorating the thing, but they're scrawny and scruffy and they barely have any limbs that'll hold anything up. It's pretty pathetic. But this year, my husband had found a really good one. Because it was sort of more on our property and had gotten more sun and had grown up a little bit. So it was a little more sturdy. It was actually a nice tree. So he brings this in and I was working yesterday afternoon and I don't actually know what my husband was doing, but my son just takes it upon himself to decorate the tree, which is totally fine. Great. He puts one string of lights on it, sort of on half of it, and then decides that the motif for this year is dog ornament Christmas. And so he goes through all the ornaments we have, pulls out the 5 that have dog theme to them, like either are a image of a dog or have like dog-ish in it, and then hangs those on the tree with like 5 bulbs. So we have like 10 ornaments on this tree. And then he jams the angel on the top where because of the way this stupid tree is, the angel's like halfway into the middle of the tree with the rest of the limbs like up above it. And I walk down and he's like, come look at my great tree. And I come down and I'm like, wow, that's awesome, buddy. That's great. He must have did it in all of like maybe 5 minutes, maybe on the outside 10 minutes. He's like, we're all done. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, Christmas tree. The present delivery system by Evan Bagley. Jesus criminy. Anyway, it's funny. I'll send you a picture later. It's just okay. There it is.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome.
Tree.
Ours is a little different this year. We normally don't decorate our tree, but we actually decided this year. This is going to sound like depressing in a sense. So we decided this year. We kind of regret this a bit, that we weren't doing gifts in the house. So part because my daughter she just got something big. She got a keyboard with like weighted keys that she could have in her room. She could practice instead of just, we have a piano downstairs, but she really wanted this to be able to put her headphones on and play more often than she normally does, because of course, like right now she couldn't do it because we're recording a podcast. And then, so she got that, and then told her she bought an iPad this year. We're like, we'll pay it off as part of your Christmas present, so you don't have to keep making payments on it. So that was a big thing for her. My son came with us to Dublin when we were at ESPC. So that was his Christmas present. And my wife and I, we decided not to do it because we're going on a very big trip next year, because we both turned 50 next year, and it's our 25th anniversary. So we're like, we decided to pay for the lay flat Delta One seats from Atlanta all the way over to Athens. And then we're on a 2-week cruise in the Mediterranean and then flying back. So I'm
super jealous. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that'll happen next June, but we're both like, that's a lot of money. And so let's just not do presents. So, but now our tree looks like there's nothing under a tree. So it's a little bit, it's a little lame, but whatever.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. My husband and I in general do not exchange gifts. There's a few things, but it's like underwear and socks type of thing and it's just there to balance out the fact that my son is getting gifts. So it's not so ridiculously one-sided, but as soon as he's grown up, we won't exchange gifts. We don't do birthday gifts. We don't do Valentine. We don't do any of it. Like, it's just not our thing. So I don't think it's weird. I don't have a weird.
It's the one holiday, like it's one holiday I'm not a big fan of. I don't like the whole obligation of giving gifts, and then people give you stuff and it's like, I don't know. There's a part of it that's just, I don't like the materialistic, like commercial side of it. That's just like, I have to buy you something because I was supposed to buy you something. And then at the end of the day, you're going to have some stuff that you didn't want this stuff beforehand, but now you just have more stuff. I'm like, like what you just said for presents. For me, I want something practical. If I'm going to do presents, like to me, it's like, I'm going to give you something practical, or I'm going to get you something that I know that you want, but you're not going to spend the money on it yourself. Like detail your car, or like say, go get a massage, or go to a day at the spa or something like that. Like an experience.
I'm a big proponent of experiences. Like that's definitely where I would lean to. So whatever, I guess we're on the same page. Well, so that's about all that's going on.
There is one thing that I wanted to throw out here for our show. We talked a little bit about it, and I want to throw this out. So for all of you who are listening to the show, Julie and I, eventually we would like to get, we want to get, well, not just eventually, like now, we're trying to get the show in front of more people, right? And we had some really good comments that I got on behalf of both of us at the European SharePoint conference at ESPC a couple weeks ago. And then we just get a lot of really good comments on social. We're trying to we would like to get the show in front of more people. And I guess one way we would like to do it is we'd love to get your help, if you're listening, to share a quote, a testimonial, or something like, what do you get out of the show? What do you like about this show? Why do you listen to it? And the big reason is because like Julie and I we want to reach out to a couple different companies that, I mean, obviously everyone, when you do shows like this, you want to get sponsors. But what we want to do is want to get out in front of a couple other companies and be like, look, we want to get, we'd love to help you with your company and help you with like get some more exposure. And instead of doing like normally you want money in exchange for this, like how about, here's a reason kind of people that listen to our show, here's what they love about the show. We'd love if you could go through and help us like get the show, the show in front of more people. And if you wouldn't mind mentioning it in your newsletter or something like that. So a friend of the show.
Sure.
So I'd love to get any quotes, anything that if you're a listener, if you just take a few minutes and just leave us a review on iTunes, leave us a review on wherever you're listening to shows, on social media. If you leave us a comment, wherever you're leaving stuff, we see them. And we'd love to get anything, just hear from you. Why you listen to the show.
Yeah. No, I think that could be really interesting way where we could expand our viewership, so to speak, and reach more people. And so it's sort of a tit for tat kind of way to extend the show visibility. So I think that could work really good. So, and if you're a company who would like to be involved in that, certainly reach out to us. That's a fair way to do things as well. So cool.
Absolutely.
Love the idea.
Okay. You want to dive into our show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right, Julie. Had an idea.
Yes.
This has kind of come up in a couple different comments, like here and there, from people when we'll talk about AI, or they'll say, you and I will say, like, using this tool or using that tool, and somebody will comment on social about, would love to hear like how you guys, what you guys think about this stuff and how you approach it and everything. And we've had these little conversations here and there. So I thought, why don't we do a show on how you and I are using AI or not using AI, and the different aspects of our life. So like from the personal life, from like the business life, also because the show is a lot about developers. It also, how do we use it from a developer point of view? So like the GitHub Copilots, the Claude codes, Codex, whatever you end up using, Cursor. So I thought we'd just kind of just riff on that just a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe we should like do it in segments. You want to start with like a chunk, like work first, or whatever. Pick one. Start in an area.
Let's do like on a day-to-day kind of a thing. Like like what and then let's kind of dive in on like the developer side of it. I guess so. Let me start with this first before we do that, because I think that this will kind of set a little bit of tone here. I didn't know exactly how to phrase this. So my idea was, if I asked you like what AI do you use? And it's a terrible way to phrase it.
I know what you mean.
What chatbot do you use? What platform do you use? So think like GitHub Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, Claude Code, Codex, Cursor for a developer environment, Windsurf, it's a developer environment. So what do you use, or what have you used, and what do you like? Where do you gravitate on the different things for different scenarios? Like, do you have different scenarios you use too?
I do, but I think I need to preface all of that by I alluded to this. I think last episode I alluded to the fact that I am very, very cognizant of my mental acuity declining. Right. Being a little bit older, that is definitely something that will be on my horizon coming up. Like, it's sort of the new thing for me to think about is, how do I maintain the sharp acuity that I had in my youth? And that's kind of something that's super important to me. And I don't feel like I'm losing a step or anything like that. That's not the case currently, but I don't want it to be either. And we had talked about the fact, and I think we shared it before, and we should share it again if we hadn't. But there's a episode of Diary of a CEO with two experts in the field. One being a person who's an expert on AI in general, like one of the sort of the founders, people who were involved in the early development of AI, and then the second being someone who does a lot of research and scanning and mapping of the brain. And so after watching that episode and the host Steven talking very much about the same idea that he doesn't want to to deteriorate his cognitive ability by overusing AI. And so that was definitely something I was worried about too, and wanted to essentially find a way to like work into how I was going to use AI going forward. And so I have sort of created a bit of a manifesto for myself that is, I will not use AI to do anything for me that I consider a core skill. So from that generally falls into only development, and then it falls into, the full stack developer area, right? Like whether I'm building server side or client side solutions, any of that is sort of my core skill set, and my ability to logic and understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what the architecture is and all of those things. I feel like that's my core knowledge base, and I don't want to pollute that by farming that thinking out to AI and just verifying that it's correct. Because I think that while I have expertise in those things, my expertise will decline over time because I'm not staying sharp. I'm not, constantly using my mind to do those things, those patterns over and over again, and I'm farming it out too much. Where I do lean into AI sometimes is where The outcome is, and where also the outcome is not personal. So I don't use AI to post on LinkedIn or anything like that. If I make a post on LinkedIn, the run-on sentence is mine. Like, if it doesn't make sense, if it's misspelled, if it's a run-on sentence, if the grammar is shit, that's all me 100%. Like, I don't want it fixed. And even to a lot of extent, client communication, I don't have AI rewrite emails that I'm sending to a client, with maybe a few exceptions. So with all of that said, on a day-to-day basis, I originally was using Copilot, because that's the first AI that...
Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Microsoft 365 Copilot, because that was sort of the first thing. Praxis as a group, the 7 of us, decided that if we are going to be Microsoft 365 experts, then we better have some experience using Copilot and seeing what it's about. So we bought licenses for our main work tenant. And so I had access to that and I was using it, here or there. Not extensively, but, every once in a while I'd ask it some kind of question, and it tended to fall into the web category of questions, not the work category. Just, hey, what's the tallest mountain in the world? Or, some silly thing like that. Like nothing thought-provoking.
Like a Google replacement.
Exactly. It was a Google replacement. That was it, and can I still Google? Sure. And does it give you an AI summary at the top? Sure. Do I read those? A lot of the time, yeah. Especially if it's a question where it's like fact-based and I know there's probably, like, once I read it, I'm like, yep, okay, that's obviously the right answer. I just couldn't remember it. Those types of things. And then for coding, I had access to GitHub Copilot because I'm a Microsoft MVP, and the MVP program generously gave us access to GitHub Copilot as part of our MVP resources that they sort of give us for free. So that's where I started, and those were the tools that I used. From there, I guess, you and I had a conversation not too long ago, because the MVP program has been, in my opinion, deteriorating over time. And the most recent deterioration is that they decided that we get GitHub Copilot, but we only get a certain number of tokens now. And so if you even use it a tiny bit, like ask it 1 or 2 questions, you've pretty much used your tokens up for the month. So I was in a place where I like having that Google replacement essentially in my code editor. So I'm in Visual Studio Code, I'm typing away. I can't remember the name of a method on the Lodash repository or whatever it might be. And I'm like, I would normally Google that. Well, now I'll just ask an AI, right? That's easy, quick and easy. And 9 times out of 10, I know the right answer. I just couldn't remember it. And so there it is, right? So that's a way where it's like an assist, right? Like we use search engines. I don't have a problem with that. But man, not having that and having to like look at it and go, well, I can pay $10 a month for this, or I can decide to try something else. And you suggested 3 podcasts ago that you were liking Claude Code. And so I said, all right, I'll give that a try. And so I gave Claude Code a try. And I will say, for the most part, Claude Code was the equivalent of Visual Studio or GitHub Copilot. Like I didn't see really much of a difference other than the user experience, which is different. And I have a feeling on that at this point, but other than that, they were basically the same. And then I came up with right around the 1 month, I said I was going to try for 1 month. And right around the 1 month point, I had to open a project that I had been working on a while ago that I had to bring back and work on something else. And I said, you know what? Let me see what Claude Code says about this method that I had developed about creating connection off pool for SQL Server. And the problem with doing that in an Azure function is that if it's a consumption-based Azure function, you can't really reliably create a pool that stays because it's consumption-based. You're not like, here's my server and I'm spinning this up and I'll have a connection pool and those connections will be there and it won't be a big deal. you're essentially saying, oh, well, while while the number of instances are up, there's a connection pool, but as those instances drop off and or more spin up, or it spreads out, or it's gone to sleep and now it's coming up somewhere else, the state of those connection pools is really funky. You have to write a lot of code to handle all the different states that connection pool and the connections inside of it can be in. And it was a complicated thing to write. And I said, well, here's AI. Let's see what it thinks about my implementation. And the implementation I had still had had some flaws. I was like, I don't love some of the ways this behaves, but at least it's working, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to point Claude Code at this. GitHub Copilot had nothing. Like I had asked it for some, to assess it, and it just gave me dumb, wrong answers that I was like, whatever. Okay, dumb. So I asked Claude Code the same thing, and it found several things that it suggested that I was like, ooh, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. So I'm not, again, back to I don't want it to deteriorate my thinking. I wasn't saying go fix this. I was saying review this class that does X, Y, and Z and suggest, and that is hosted in a consumption-based Azure function, blah, 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 giving it the parameters of how this, this code is going to be transient, and what would be your recommendations? So not only did it have some really interesting, good recommendations, a couple of which I ended up implementing, it did also find a memory leak that I didn't even notice that I had. So I was like, awesome. Okay, Claude, you're in. GitHub Copilot, you're out. So, so that was sort of, at this point, that's been, I have more I could say, but I should stop talking at this point. So that's sort of where I've landed on the what I use when and how I use it. In my personal life, I have some ways to use it too, but I'll stop there.
Well, my cough appreciated the monologue, so I thought you did a great job.
I was doing what I could for you.
So I'm curious then. So are you still using Claude Code? Are you a subscriber to it? Okay.
Yep. I am.
So just for context for our listeners, are you on the $20 plan, a $20 a month plan,
yes.
or are you on the $100 a month plan? Okay, 20? The pro plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm still sitting in monthly, although I'll probably change to, I just wanted to go a few more months before I committed to a year. So I am on you can do the monthly pay, or you can pay for it yearly, which gets you a month or two free. So yes.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. That's interesting. All right. So I want to unpack, I'll go back and kind of catch up to where you are and how I use it too, or what I use. So, I've played with, I don't want to say all of them, but I've played with most of the different ones that are out there. So between Microsoft 365 Copilot, yes, I use that. Same reason you do. I teach how to build agents on it. I teach how to, and then I use it a little bit in my day-to-day life. Don't find the quality of it from an out-of-the-box experience to be all that great. I'm not terribly impressed with it on that side. But I do like it in building custom agents and having access to all my my email stuff that I have in OneDrive and Microsoft 365. I do like it from that point of view when I have a custom agent. But just the general experience, I'm not very impressed with Microsoft 365 Copilot. Microsoft 365 Copilot. On a normal basis, I've also used Gemini. I find that one to be, I like that one the most in terms of having a conversation, going back and forth. I love turning that on and when I want to research something or I just want to talk through something, when I'm on a drive, going to the gym or going whatever, I'll put it up, connect it to it, and just have a conversation about something and just something I'm trying to figure out. So I was doing something with a client that they had a coaching client. They had something they were trying to figure out. And I was trying to think of all the different options that we had that were available to them and to kind of think through and kind of run down, pick each one. I get distracted very easily. So I'm look, here's a couple different ideas of the challenge that here's their challenge. Here's a couple different ideas on of what I want to run through. Let's dig into each one of these. Give me advantages, disadvantages to each one of these. Let me ask questions about them, etc. So came up 3 different solutions. I was like, what else am I not thinking of? What are my blind spots? It suggested 2 other solutions. One of the blind spot options that it came up with, I eliminated that. Two of the three options I came up with, I eliminated those. So I was down to just two options at the very end, one of mine and one that Gemini came up with. But I had a lot of research come out of it too. I literally sat there and did that for like the 30 minutes before my half marathon started that morning at like 5 a.m. while I was waiting for the time to start. Got there early, so I got to have a good parking spot. But anyway, so Gemini is one that I use. I don't use ChatGPT anymore. Nothing really against it. I just find that for the conversational experience, I like Gemini the most. But for the majority of the stuff that I do is almost all Claude.
Well, I will say that when I was using Microsoft 365 GitHub Copilot, not Microsoft 365 Code. When I was using GitHub Copilot, the UI in Visual Studio Code has the ability to pick which model you wanted to use. And I will say that when GitHub Copilot was working best for me, I was using Sonnet. So I think 4.5 or 4.0 and then 4.5, that rings a bell.
4.5 is pretty new. So it might have been like 4.1 or something, but
maybe.
I thought based on the timing we talked, I think it might have been 4. Well, whatever. It
doesn't really matter. Anyway, the bigger point is that I was using and actually Stefan Bauer is the one who said to me, change the model to Sonnet and you're going to get much better experience. So that's when I started running with using it as my Google replacement, we'll say, like in the UI. Like essentially that's the only way I was using it. I had it in ask mode. I didn't want it to change any of my code. So back to like my previous statement, I just had it in ask mode and it was sort of my Google replacement. Like I can't remember what this cron thing means, or I can't remember what the name of that tool was that I used, or whatever it is, whatever I want to Google, that's how I would use it. So.
Got it. Yeah. And I like the thing that I like the most about Claude. I like the subscription and the entire ecosystem model that they have. Mm-hmm. So I like there is a little delineation in terms of how you pay for it. So there's two different ways of paying for it. There's either like what you and I are doing today, which is we pay a monthly subscription for it. And you can, for that, there's 3 different tiers. There's the Pro plan, which is $20 a month. Then there's a Max plan, which is $100 a month, or a $200 a month Max plan. And you don't get any new features or anything with each one that you bump up. Or for the most part, you don't. It's essentially just however much you're using it, you get to use it more. So you basically pay for your usage. So essentially, I was doing the $20 a month plan at first, and I would find that some days I'd start to get I get a message going, you got to chill out until 4:23 p.m. this afternoon when your throttle or your quota will reset.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm getting enough productivity out of this. I'm going to bump up to $100 a month. And if the second that it starts telling me on a consistent basis, I'm doing the same thing with my $100 a month plan, I'll happily go to $200 because of the value I get out of it. The other way of doing it is you can pay for API calls. So you're basically paying on a metered process. And I mean, that depending on how much you use it, if like $200 a month basically comes out, I think somebody did something on Reddit that said it basically comes out to about $2,600 in API credits a month. So by having a more reliable or consistent plan, you're paying for it, you get more usage. So the thing that I really like about it though is that when you pay for that one subscription, you're getting access to not just Claude Code, you're getting access to the entire Claude ecosystem. So there's a web client like ChatGPT and like M365 Copilot. There's a desktop client, again, like ChatGPT, like M365 inside of Teams. There's Claude Code, which is basically a local version of Claude Desktop, but it's also more tailored for developer scenarios. That's available both as a terminal, like a console app, and it's available as an extension inside VS Code and other tools. That's what I end up using the most, not just for coding, but I also use it for like my writing and stuff. I'll explain how I use that in a second. There's 2 other things that are relatively new. They're still in beta. There's something called Claude Code on the web. And then there's also a Claude browser extension that is heavily like sandboxed. That's really cool because if you're doing something where like you're doing a lot of like copy paste, or if you're trying to find an email of like all the emails, like like if I have a bunch of calendar things that are in my email, like I need to go accept all of them, like going, can you go through and accept all my calendar meetings I just looked at here? I don't want to go through each one and say accept. It can automate that kind of stuff, right? That one's a little bit more risky because it's got more access, but it's also asked for tons of permissions. When you're using Claude Code on VS Code or in the terminal, it's usually asking you a lot of times for permission to do something. Like, can I run this git command? Can I do this write command? Tons and tons of permissions it's asking. And I like that. But a lot of times too, I'm like, just stop asking me if you can do this, if you can go search this web, you can go make this web search.
Well, I'm the opposite of that, but okay.
Well, so I'll give you a scenario of where I did this today. So the other side of it though, is that if you use Claude Code on the web, what it does, you have the same kind of experience with a project. So you connect it to your project and your repo, you connect to your repo, you have a conversation with it. And instead of it going through and asking all these questions, it spins up a container, it clones your repo into that container, and it goes through and does all the work that it needs to do, commits everything into a separate branch into your project that you can then go review, and it'll even create the PR for you. But because it's doing it in a container, no questions. So what I did, I've got this process I'm trying to get knocked out before Christmas. Actually, really want to get it knocked out before December the 27th when I get charged $200 again. I migrated my company from one platform to another platform. I did that 6-7 months ago. The problem is that the platform I came from, they have all of my historical sales data, customer details, customer progress on courses. It's like my master record for everything. But I don't use the platform anymore. And so I have to continue to pay for it because that's all my data is. They don't give me an export option. They don't give me an API. So, and I've been putting this project off forever, but I was like, you know what? I know that I can do, I talked to Gemini one day. I'm like, can I just do something like Playwright to go do a screen scraper to just walk through these 5-digit customers and like 5-digit meaning the number of people, not how much they spent. I wish I had a ton of customers that did that. I went through and had it using Claude Code to assist in creating my first, using Playwright to go through and create a bunch of tests to go through and to screen scrape the platform I used to use. And sure, I could have gone through and built it myself, but it's a one-time thing. I didn't really care about tests or anything. It's just, ironically,
yeah, that falls into that. Data. Yeah, that falls into it's not your core set of skills, so just get it done. Totally there with you. Yep.
Now, the cool thing about this on the Claude Code on the web thing, where we're talking about the permissions between running it local and remote, here's what I really liked about it. I went through and looked at it, got it all running this morning finally, and I was like, cool, run. And I'm watching how fast it is. And I'm like, while that's going, let me open up another session here. I'm like, look at how many things you've actually been able to process in the last 45 minutes. I have this many customers. How long is this going to take?
Ooh, and okay.
So it goes through. And let's just say my computer would have to be on for a very long time.
Boy.
And I'm like, well, that's going to be at least another month or two of my $200 a month charge that I'm paying right now. And I'm like, okay, I mean, it could run, but is there another option? And I remembered something that I had seen a couple months ago. So I went and checked, and I'm like, sure enough, there's now an Azure hosted service from the Azure app testing. This is going to be my pick, where there's a Playwright hosted service that it will allow you to shard out your tests and say, hey, can you just go through and can I just throw a ton of computers at it and just say, can you do the same thing but spin it all locally?
Spin up one per customer or something like that and parallel the shit out of it.
So basically, it's once I get it running based on its calculations, it should take less than an hour and cost me less than $25.
Yes. That's friggin' awesome, sauceable.
But what I did is I took that entire project that I already had.
Yeah.
And I had about a 30 or 45 minute conversation with Claude. And I'm like, hey, look, and it's or Claude Code. And I was like, I put it in plan mode. So there's 3 modes. There's plan mode, there's ask mode before make edits, and then there's just edit automatically. So I put it in plan mode. And I'm like, I want you to think, and little pro tip, you can tell Claude, think harder or think ultra hard. And it actually will do more research and everything behind the scenes.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, that's a new tip.
More. Well, for you, be careful with $20 a month. You go ultra hard, you're going to blow your tokens for the day really quick. So, and that's one of the things that made me change it up. But what I did was I had this conversation with it. it planned everything out. And I was like, hey, I also got a problem. I got one-time passwords that are in there inside of one password that are being generated. How can I do this? There's a CLI. Can I do this? Let me figure it out. Bot comes back. Oh, you can do a service account. We can actually incorporate that in. So you can do that. So when we spin it out to 30 different shards,
you can use that service account. Yeah.
It's going to figure the whole thing out. I was like, sweet. So we built out the whole plan. It had a list of everything it was going to go through and accomplish. I was like, save that as a markdown file in the root of the project. It saved it. It goes, do you want me to start creating it? I'm like, no. I committed it, pushed it to my repo, and then I went Claude Code on the web. And I'm like, I'm going to go have lunch. Go execute the plan. And it went through and it did all the edits to my project with no permission requests based on the plan that was there. Now, sure, is that like vibe coding? Yeah, yes, it is. But I already figured out how to write all the tests. But then I handed it over and just said, look, go through and build this thing out. Now I have an example of how this thing works in my domain, not trying to learn somebody else's domain, but I know my scenario, get this thing to work. Frankly, it's the reason why I showed up a minute or two late, because I was so close to getting it working. I was like, I got to stop. It's not working. Let's just get it digitally. So that's one of the ways I like to use this. But like you, one of the things you said that I wanted to address was you don't want it to replace like your core competency. So I too, I'm very acutely, not trying to compare how much each one of us is concerned about it, but I'm very concerned with like brain health and deterioration of brain health, specifically with my dad, like with advanced Alzheimer's, advanced dementia, and other family that's had Alzheimer's. So I'm hypersensitive about just brain health and what can I do to constantly exercise. And one of the things, so I don't, like you talked about, and the Diary of the CEO episode, there's 2 episodes when you were talking, I was taking notes, and that I want to go back and find that you and I both liked. The one with Simon Sinek.
That one too. That's another good one. Yeah.
So we'll put links to both of those in the show notes.
The Simon Sinek one I actually almost like better from a different reason. But anyway, keep going.
It's all about AI. The other one is about, some of it is about AI, but it still is early on. So I don't want to use AI to replace what's going on between my ears. I do want to use AI to help me do more with what my hands do. Mm-hmm. So I know how to write a test. I know how to build a node project. I know how to do a SharePoint web part, right? I know how to add I know how to do a bunch of different things here. A +1 of me doing another one doesn't have any kind of a mental challenge or exercise to me. So now, I don't mean this for everything, but to me, there's a certain aspect of, cool, if I got this done, now let's go through and let's blaze through it. Can you go through and can you amplify that stuff? I like it. So one of the ways that I like to use it is that I didn't take issue, but I had a comment on someone that put something on LinkedIn the other day saying, here's how I get AI to interview me on a topic, and I let it write my article for me. I'm like, I'm not gonna tell you that that's a wrong thing to do. To each their own. But to me, that doesn't work because that's no longer my words. What I like, the way I like to use it is, I can't type as fast as my brain works. My mouth doesn't work as fast as my brain works. Either one of them. So what I like to do is use AI to help me organize a topic that I want to talk about. I have thoughts on it, make a bullet list, maybe H1s through H3s, and then I'll turn my recorder on my phone, go for a walk, and then I'll just dictate what I want to say. And I use all my own words, all my own quotes. I then will have AI help me clean it up, because it's just one big wall of text. Help me clean it up in terms of paragraphs, suggest headings, whatever. But that's just a first pass. And then I go through and I write the article, and I make sure that everything is the way that I want it. At the end of writing the article, I do have another prompt that I use that says, it's Grammarly on steroids. Basically go in and look at it and say, where are my typos? Where are my spell errors? Where my grammar suck? But also score this article for like a flow. Where is this section? Like the transition from this section to this section, there is no transition. It's just abrupt. Or how would you score this on a 1 to 10? And a lot of times it'll come back and it's like, you need more images. It's a wall of text. Or you could use an example that you could spice through the entire thing. Here's some ideas. I'm like, okay, now I see where you're going with this. I could take an example of where I did this over here, and let me just go through and walk through it through the entire article. It's like the article flows better now. I don't mind doing it that way because it's all my own words. It's all my own thoughts. And it's basically handing my article over to an editor that then I have to go back and review and make sure, but it still feels like my work.
Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent. I think this is where your work and my work differ. Like, I don't have any need for that like thing, but I can totally see why in your realm of what you do, that is absolutely a good scenario and use case where I'm going to fight back, that's the wrong word, but where I'm going to disagree with you is on the +1 thing. I think if you're like, well, I know how to do that, so I can just get AI to do the next one for me. In my mind, if it's my core competency, I don't want it to do that +1 because think about it like when you do a task and you don't do it again for a while, you forget how to do it. And so in my mind, I got to do all the +1s. Unless it's something that I don't want to be my core competency or I don't see it as my core competency, like I'll use an example. If I have infrastructure as code bicep stuff, I am not a DevOps engineer. I don't want to be a DevOps engineer. I have no desire to like become a DevOps engineer. So in my mind, I figured out and understand the concept of infrastructure as a code and what needs to be done. But am I going to point AI at something and when I need to tweak it slightly, go, yes, please tweak this because I need it to do something different. Please figure out how to do it that different thing that I need it done. I'm absolutely going to have it support me in that way. I still try to use ask, not do, because I don't want to farm it out mentally completely. I just want to say, I need my bicep file to do this. And then it, gives me an answer. And then I'm like, and I will say at that point, I'm like, it knows better than I do at this point. I don't know the answer. So I'll just put it in and go, let's just try that and see if that actually does what I hoped it would do. And then once it does, I'm like, okay, now can I abstract that a little bit, make it a little cleaner, whatever. I might do that to apply my brain to doing some logic. But I don't care if I'm farming it out. But if I'm like, I have the 5th Azure function to set up with an OBO flow and all the code that goes along with that, I make myself do the manual labor that is start with this, copy over this one that I did, copy over that one, make sure I set that up. I have my documents of like processes where I'm like, yep, and I go through and I do that step and that step and that step because that repetition is me keeping that information fresh in my head. So that's where I would push back a little bit. The editing, acting as an editor, I'm totally with you. The way you are using it as like a writing editor, I'm behind that. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially for the formality of what you're trying to put out. But from a code perspective and I already know how to write a test, then no, I would still write them myself.
Okay, I don't. There's a little bit of a slight like kind of approach that's a little bit different there.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with either. Nothing wrong with what you're saying there.
Nope.
Let me say one thing about how when I say the +1 thing. Let me explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
Great example. The screen scraper that I was working on today. There was a problem where like first go to the customer list, enumerate through the customer list for each customer, go through and pull up their data. Now look at their purchases, list those things out, grab all of those things. We're going to dump those to a CSV. Now go to their course progress. Look at the modules in the course, step through each of the modules in the course and step through each of the lessons and find out what their progress is. When I did that, the whole thing is being done is grabbing everything using selectors, CSS selectors. So found the selector, pasted in. Is it working? Yes. Cool. Okay, let's get the other one in there. Nothing else is working. Why isn't this working? Go through and find it. Oh, it's a little bit different. It's not a table. It's actually a bunch of divs that is rendered out to look like a table. Oh, that's a pain in the butt. Let's try and figure out how this is going. Once I got 2 or 3 of these going, I'm like, okay, I can do this. But then I was like going, you know what? Hey, look, here's the HTML that it uses. I need to go through and do this. And here's the other data that I want to get. By the way, those dates that say like April 15th, 2025. And it doesn't have anything else on it. Hey, take that, convert that to the ISO, I think like what, 8601 or whatever it is.
Yes.
Convert it to that. You're like, oh, okay, cool. That's the kind of stuff where I do it like going, look, I did this. I figured this out. I'm good. Now you go through, can you do the rest of them for me? Cool. So I can move on to the next thing. Because like to me, I guess a better way to say it, it's not so much doing do all the plus ones for me. It's that once I've now just figured this out and I've done like what you said, I got that one going. Now that I understand it, that's the part that I needed the exercise on.
Yeah.
I don't need to go through and keep doing the same thing over and over and over. Right?
Not your core competency.
Right.
So that passes my sniff test, right? Not my core competency. I basically understand it. Okay, AI, go do this for me.
The other thing how I love to use this, especially on the developer side, the other thing how I love to use this is as a research assistant. Now, when I do as a research assistant, it's also, I tell it, explain what you're doing as you're doing this, as you're doing the research, and I want to see your like chain of thought. So great example, this happened a couple days ago. Ended up finding a bug in an NPM package that was written in TypeScript, but they don't publish the source code. They only publish the generated JavaScript, which would be a pain to go through and read.
Yes.
So this was all using TypeSpec to build declarative agents. So I was trying to get something working, couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, why can't I take my environment variable and concatenate it with this other string and then use the concatenation as the property that I would end up using here? And it wasn't working. I was like, why isn't this working? I'm doing the exact same thing over here, but it's not working right here. It starts tearing through, goes into the modules folder, goes right into the code where it's going, goes, think it's not doing this. It's not running like this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. This worked. This worked. This didn't work. Why isn't this working? So I was using a string literal. That worked just fine. I was using another way. That worked just fine. But I want to concatenate these things together, and it wasn't working. It wasn't resolving anything, or so it wasn't rendering anything out. It kept going on and on and on. Finally went in, it goes, looks like there's an issue right here. It looks like it's not going through and like looking at the actual value is checking to see like an existence of something. And if it's not there, it just doesn't add it. And he goes, actually, the problem might be in this function. It was a separate library function they were using. It apparently is a bug throughout the entire TypeSpec library that is for multiple capabilities where it doesn't respect like this one thing from happening. So I was like, cool, I understand this. Can you summarize this really quick? So it summarized it. And then I went through and I took a lot of the code snippets and everything it did, went over, created a bug in the issue list. Microsoft looked at it and they're like, holy crap, you totally found this. I'm like, I found it. I had a helper.
Yeah.
And I could have figured this out too on my own, but it's a lot of like, for me, for someone with like ADHD, for me, is still, I get lost when I'm going down the rabbit hole. I get lost on my way when I get really deep in there. Like I'm the one, I will never go cave diving because I will be one of the first fatalities. I'll easily die like on one of my first dives.
Okay.
I start going down the rabbit hole and it remembers, it can help me like where I'm going down the rabbit hole and this whole thing. I'm like, wait a minute, we were back over here. Where was this? It goes, oh, here, jump back over this way. That as like a crutch, it's a great assistant. And it's a great way for me to learn, like to really explore and learn how something works. The stuff that I was doing with like the SharePoint framework, 1.22 gulp to heft toolchain, no docs or anything. It was great at digging that stuff out because Microsoft doesn't share any of the source code for any of those packages that they've created.
Yeah, right.
You get the result, but not the details of it. And so that's where like that it was a huge help for that stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% behind what you're saying. I think we're generally on the same page. I think you have a lot more scenarios in your work that you can utilize this thing for. I think you've mentioned to me one time that you had to upgrade like a whole bunch of your demo projects for your course, like from one version of SharePoint Framework to the other. Oh, that's a good use case. Like I would be right there with you. Like, yep, please go do this. And I love the idea of the containerized, the web version, like forking the repos and making them all so that you don't have it merged in and you're like, oh no, you did it totally wrong and everything's all effed up and now I have to undo it. Love that. I love that scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I look at it that way. It's like for the whole thing, like upgrading all my projects, like if I was going to go hire somebody for Upwork to do this, to save me the time, I know this is going to push a button here for somebody.
This is definitely going to push some buttons, but yes, I hear you. Yeah.
I'm like, you know what, have at it, go at it. And you know what, if it does a good job of figuring other stuff out too, like blind spots that you don't have. I like to have it review what I'm doing And like what you said with the one that where you go back and look at your old code, I like having looking at the code and saying, I'm like, what am I missing here? What is there a better way to do this? He goes, you could do this, you could do this. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. That's just something that wasn't, I was stuck on my train of thought. And if I had asked somebody else to look at it, they might not have said something to me because they would have wanted like to offend me.
Yeah. Right. Like, yeah.
But I can talk to it like, well, like I should never talk to somebody else. So I'm like, why are you in this fucking loop? Like, doing this.
I always try to be nice and polite to AI, and I don't have a really good reason other than I think it's just practicing being nice all the time. I need it, maybe. I don't know. Some people would maybe tell you that.
I'm nice and I thank it, but I'm direct. How's that?
Yeah.
HR would probably tell me to chill.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's like when I was arguing with the Microsoft 365 Copilot about it not finding my meeting. I'm like, you are wrong. I was really bad. I did not say it that nicely.
Let me explain to you, the F word in lowercase and the F word in uppercase and the F word in uppercase and bold are three completely different things, buddy.
Yes.
Anyway,
those.
I had that last week too, where I was trying to get Copilot to do something. And they're looking into this. I think I actually found a way to rewire the system prompt where I gave it a document and said, this is your knowledge source for like the corporate PTO policy. And even though I put it in as a OneDrive and SharePoint capability, I gave it the specific GUID for the document that was in the document library. I knew it was indexed; it had been there for over a week. And I said,
that doesn't mean anything.
I said, even though when in the instructions, I said you will always use the file that is referenced in as the only piece of knowledge that is referenced in your manifest as the first option. And sometimes it would do it, but like 80% of the time it wouldn't do it. And I kept going back and forth with Copilot. I'm like, why aren't you doing this? You're explicitly being told to use the knowledge I gave you. And then finally I asked him like, why? And then I coach it, explain it. Here's how you're supposed to do it. He goes, oh, that's right. You told me to do this. Let me do this. I'm like, okay, look at your instructions. Why are you making the same mistake? But when I talk to you about it, you go back and you actually do the right thing. And I tell you not to make the same mistake again. And Copilot just said, oh, because my default workflow is to always use enterprise search if it's SharePoint or OneDrive content, and then I'll look for the document you just told me. Like, wait a minute. How better yet? I then went to Copilot. I'm like, so this is like my pro tip for like my students. I just did a Copilot workshop last week, and this is one of my favorite tricks is that if you're asking it to do something, or if you create an agent, you give it instructions and it doesn't do what you want it to do, instead of changing instructions, go through a chat experience and say, let's talk through this and let's figure out, here's what you were supposed to do. Oh, cool, got it. And you get the result you want. Then, right then, stop and go in the exact same session, say, how can I change my instructions based on the instructions you already have for me? How can I change my instructions so we don't have to do this again?
Yeah.
And we can fix this again. And it's like, I would suggest you make this change. I did the same thing for this time. And I was like, so if that's your default workflow, how can I change to do it? And it said, add this right here. And it says, no matter what, don't use your default workflow. Instead, always use the document first and never use enterprise search if you're supposed to do this. And it explicitly says, do not stick to your default workflow. Use what I did. And son of a gun, it works 100% of the time now. And I'm like,
that's fascinating. Thanks for that.
Did I just change the system prompt? So I showed it to somebody on the SharePoint, on the Copilot team. And I was like, here's what I did. And they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, watch this. Here, let me show you a video of literally of the chat, of me scrolling through the chat and then the change that I made. And they're like, you shouldn't be able to do that. I'm like, I didn't think so either.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's good though. That's good in a way.
First of all, I should be able to tell it, use my knowledge, don't use search. Second of all, it should not have told me and let me rewire its change. So I think there was a bug in the system instructions that it wasn't doing what I told it to do first. But second of all, it should have told me it was in the system instructions.
Yeah.
System problem.
Actually, on that note, we were talking about last week when I was ranting about the Copilot app experience Outlook having a different response, and we did it live when we were recording anyway, that the Copilot web experience / desktop experience was giving me a different answer than the Copilot app experience in Outlook as far as finding that meeting. Like Copilot app experience in Outlook found no meeting, and the app experience in the web and or the desktop was finding 2 meetings, but they were from back in January, February, and not the meeting that I had in November. Well, I was chatting with somebody we both know who basically said, can you share, can you go redo that and then flag it up or down, use the thumbs up or thumbs down in the chat experience and give me your tenant ID because I want to go see what's happening. And so this was now almost a week later, and I tried it again. And guess what? The Copilot app experience in Outlook now was giving me the same answer that the Copilot chat experience in the web or desktop was giving me. So it was giving me the January, February meetings. Still not the right answer, but now they had like converged at some level. So I was still able to do that exercise that the person asked me to do. And they pushed me and said, every time you have an issue, you need to like thumbs down it or whatever and put some feedback. He's like, we're watching all of those things constantly. So that's your best bet to get, improvements. I'm specifically not naming this person because I'm not sure they want to be. So whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
I'll throw one more plus one on that you just did. If you're a developer and you're building stuff with declarative agents, do the same thing. If you're doing a custom agent and it doesn't behave the way you think it's supposed to, like I did, give it a thumbs down and do hashtag extensibility in your message, because the extensibility team will get that feedback.
Awesome tip. So yeah, so I just wanted to like share that because I think, as I posted on LinkedIn today about the same thing, I think, we bash all this stuff all the time. That's fine, whatever, but we're still in this ecosystem and we do want Copilot to succeed at some level. We want it to be better. This is, part of our work life. And so it not being great is a problem, quite frankly. So I think, I would like to just push out there, we're in, as I said in the LinkedIn post, we're riding a really huge, big, ginormous wave that is, we need to succeed. We need to ride this wave to the shore and like get a 10. So anything that we can do to help improve the product, we should really be doing, not just sitting here saying it's horrible, which, is relevant too and necessary too. But, we also need to help them be better. And that if they're going to watch those signals about like bad chat experiences, then I'm all in. I'm going to be thumbs downing up a storm in the future. So
if I'm going to pay $30 a month, or I guess now I can pay $29 a month for a tool, I want to get my $21 a month for that tool.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk away with $21 and being pissed.
Yeah, no, 100%. So
have anything else you'd like to share on our subject today?
No, I think we, as usual, this will be a short one. Do we know how to not talk for a long time? I don't think we do. All right.
No, I've always had that problem. But anyway, how about we do some picks?
All right. I don't have a great pick this week. Well, I do. I have a pick that I'm happy with. It's more of my New Year's pick. I'm calling it my reset pick. I do a lot of, I do meditative listening before I go to sleep to try to help shut my brain down so that I can sleep well. And one of the things I've been learning a lot about lately, especially in menopause, is the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. And so I started recently listening to these Tibetan singing bowl things. So it's they're bowls, and the person like hits them, and then they run the thing they hit it with around the outside. And so it's just like this sound that's very like rich, and you feel it physically especially if you're in the same room. Anyway, this is I shared a playlist. This apparently everything I read, this man is from Tibet. So he is a Tibetan man recording himself playing these singing bowls. And this particular playlist, he has ones for sleep and all that stuff, but this particular one is for like stress relief and and helping with the sympathetic, nerve situation. And so at any rate, I'm loving it. I'm just playing it during the day. One of these sessions is like 5.5 hours. So I just like put it on in the morning while I'm working, and it just sort of at a low level, but it's sort of in the background. And I think I'm more calm. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a placebo effect, but anyway, that's my pick. I'm loving it.
Whatever works.
It's just like,
That's really cool.
Zen.
That whole like brain health thing we talked about earlier, there's a guy in the community I'm in that he teaches like how to do mastering your nervous system. And he's got a phenomenal video. You know what? I'm going to make this my pick. I've already mentioned, I was going to use the whole Playwright, Azure Playwright service but I already mentioned it. So that, I guess that link goes forward. So I'm going to go find this video this guy did. This guy named, I think his name is Johnny Miller. And he has a class that he teaches people how to go through and master your nervous system. I've wanted to do it, but he's got this one video or this video series he did. He dropped, I won't say how much he dropped, but he dropped a lot of money on the editing for this one video that's just a couple minutes long. But he basically explains the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system and how they coexist and kind of work like both against, but also with each other. Mm-hmm. But he does it in his normal day, but uses Minecraft as an analogy with it.
Oh,
so you see like the little hearts like showing up and then losing hearts throughout and different tasks and stuff. It totally clicked for me. I saw this and that's what kind of got me on this whole like, it got me down this like path of like looking at stuff. And frankly, it was the thing that kind of started me on the realization and a couple of years ago when I realized I was one of those adult ADHD people that I shouldn't say one of those, but I am one of those that changed my life. At least it changed when I understood myself better. And it was like, I was able to go through and to channel it in a better way, more productive way.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. Well, I'll definitely take a look.
I will find it. I will share it with you and I will share it with our listeners.
Awesome. All right.
Julie, you and your family have a great Merry Christmas. And I'm sure I'll talk to you before the new year, but our listeners,
they will not.
You're going to get this on New Year's Eve, so I guarantee you won't hear from us again until after the new year.
Well, with our picks, we have set everyone up for great New Year's resolutions to become less stressed individuals. That's our goal.
There you go. Less stressed individuals and quit fire yourself and use AI. I'm just kidding. All right. Good to see you, Julie.
Good to see you, Andrew.
Did you like this episode? Please like and share it with your friends. We're on YouTube, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. You'll find all the links in the video description below. And if you have a question, head over to our site at codedeploygo.live, where you can send it in. Also, sign up for our mailing list on our site at codedeploygo.live to learn about future episodes, opportunities for listeners, and get the show notes from each episode sent straight to your inbox. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks.